This video is for Unit 4, Lesson 10. So again, we are looking at functions. This is the practice assignment for this week. So we're just going to kind of go through this, see how some of this stuff works. So do this. These functions are not called in the correct order. Rearrange the function calls to correctly tell the story. So we can see that we have our function definitions. So there's a spring function, says first comes spring, then flowers bloom. Then summer sun will follow soon. Then we have autumn, where it's going to log out autumn crackles red and gold. And then we have winter, when hibernation for winter's cold. So if we run this code, what we're going to notice is, we're calling winter, then summer, then spring, then autumn. Which means we should see it log out winter, summer, spring, autumn, which is what we're seeing in here, right? Winter gets called first, so it displays the winter text. Then it's calling summer, so it's going to show the summer text. But they want us to fix this so that it displays in the correct order. So it should display spring, summer, autumn, winter. So to do that, we just need to rearrange these so that they're called in the correct order. All right, so spring, summer, autumn, and then winter. Whoops. Doesn't want to work today. Hang on, let me just go to text mode. All right, now I'll go back to block mode. So if I run this now, it should print out in the correct order because I've called the functions in the correct order. So that will go ahead and finish up the first one. So we're going to go to level 2. Right. On level 2, we can see that there's some functions, right? They've been declared. So we're going to print a roof and then a floor and then a lobby. So if I run this, we can see down here that I get this, image of a house. What they want us to do is add some code to draw at least 3 more floors, right? So to do that, again, we don't have to rewrite these console logs to do a floor. I can just add as many floors as I want, right? So if I run this now, I should see that this is just a taller building. All right, so now I've got, the floor, the lobby with the door, and then I've got 4 floors because I've called it 4 times, and then, my roof is up top. So again, we're just practicing this idea of how functions is a place for us to organize instructions, and then we can call those functions as many times as we want. So it's kind of reducing our code, right? If I didn't have these functions, I'd have to be copying and pasting these floor lines multiple times. And then if I ever wanted to change what a floor looked like, I'd have to go to each one of those lines and fix it, right? If I want the floor to look a little different, I can just come to my function, change it one time, and then when I run my code, I'm going to see my change every time floor is called. So we're just kind of practicing that stuff and getting this idea, kind of locked in for us. All right, level 3, it's starting in text mode. And you'll see that there's some warnings and some errors. And one of the things that they want you to notice is that if you're in text mode and you have, an error, if you try to go to block mode, it's not going to let you. You have to fix your mistake before you can switch to block mode. And these should kind of jump out at you. This is how we've defined our function because we're using camel case. So this first word is all lowercase, and then the A in our second word is capital. There's no spaces, but I can see on line 7 and 8 they did not do the proper naming. So I'm going to capitalize the A on line 7, and then I'm going to get rid of that space on 8. Now my warnings or errors are gone. So I can go to block mode. And if I run this now, everything should work fine without any sort of errors. So I need to call by Apple more times. Sorry, I didn't even see that one on the do this. So call Apple enough times that you get the message in the console saying that you've run out of money. So basically what they want us to do is just kind of keep calling by Apple. As many times as we need to. So I'm just going to copy and paste this a few more times. right? And then it's telling me I don't have enough money because I've called it too many times. So again, we're just practicing this idea of calling our functions over and over and over again. All right, so now we're looking at level 4. This one, they have this app. They want us to read the code, understand how it works, particularly the update screen function, and then they want us to add calls to update screen. So if we look down, we have our update screen function, but we're getting a warning because update screen, it's defined, but it hasn't been called. So you got to remember, anytime we're dealing with functions, there's two things we have to do. We have to define our function, and then we have to call our function. And they've actually put some code in here kind of telling me where I need to add this, right? So I can see on line 4, I need to add a call to the update screen. So I'm going to go to functions, I'm going to drag this out, and I'm going to change the name. Right, so I've added it there. On line 13 now, they want me to do the same thing. And then on line 25, they want me to do it. And then that should do it, right? So everywhere they've added the comment to add it, I've added it. So now when I run it, everything's working. I get my happy face, I get my neutral, I get my sad face. So that's all working correct now. All right, lesson 5. This one, so they've got a bunch of console logs on here. They want us to rewrite this program to use functions rather than repeated code. So the problem is, if you look at lines 5 and 8, it's repeating multiple times. So it's on 12 to 15, 19 to 22, 26 to 29, and then 33 to 36. So again, this idea of just repeating these lines over and over again, I don't need to do that. All right, so what I'm going to do is I first need to define a function, because I'm going to put these lines of code, right, into a function so that I don't have to code the same lines multiple times. And then anywhere I take that out, I'm going to just add a call to my function. So I'm going to call this routine. All right, so I've created my function, I've defined it, I've given it the name routine, and then I move those lines of code from here. So now what I can do is I can delete anywhere that I've repeated that code, and then I can just add a call to my function. All right, so it's up here again for Wednesday, so I'm going to get rid of that. Put it in there. I need to do the same for Tuesday. I need to do it one last time for Monday. All right, so now I've defined my function where I have those lines of code. I can just call this function whenever I want these lines to run, and then anywhere that I had that duplicate code, I just replaced it with a call to my function. So if I run this, everything's going to print out for me. All right, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. But again, just practicing this idea of creating functions. All right, level 6 is just going to go over scope again. So again, this mistake's made all the time. We don't want to create local variables right now. So we are not using this var command inside of on events or inside of our functions. Again, you just got to be aware of this. You'll see weird things happening with your code. So just make sure you understand that. Then you will continue. All right, so now we're looking at this by Apple. And this is coming right after that scope lesson that they just kind of reiterated to us again. So we are going to look at this code because I'm getting a warning here, I'm getting a warning here. But if I look inside my function, I see that they've used the var keyword 2 times. And we do not want to use var inside of a function or an on event. So to fix this, I'm going to get rid of that var keyword. Go back to block mode, and you'll see that your warnings and your errors are gone. And now, your app's going to work the way you expect it to. Just speed it up a little. All right, so now everything's working correctly. We're going to finish. We're going to go to level 8. All right, level 8, this is where you're going to have a couple of apps to work on. So for this week, I want you to do A and I want you to do B. You do not have to do C. All right, so when I'm grading this, I'm going to make sure you did A and B. I am not going to go over B on this video, but I am going to go over A really quick. Because this is going to look like something that you did last week. It's the ticket app where you have an adult ticket, a child ticket, and a senior ticket. But this time we're using functions, right? So again, I have this child price and senior price. I'm getting a warning because they're not being used yet because there's no code in here. But what they want us to see is that, some of this code is going to repeat every single time. And I don't need to do that. I can use a function for this. So what they're getting at is this update screen, right? From lines 14 through 20. That should be inside of a function called update screen. So I'm going to go to functions. I'm going to create a function. I'm going to call it update screen. All right, and then I'm going to take these lines of code and I'm going to move them inside of this function. All right, so now where I had that code, I can just call update screen. So obviously I need to build out the child button and the senior button. So I'm going to add these to each one of those because I know I'm going to need that. All right, and then pretty much all you're left with is these two lines, right? So for each one, the child button, I'm going to have to update the tickets and I'm going to have to update the dollars. So for tickets, I'm going to use my math function because I'm going to add, and I want to do tickets plus 1. This one is going to be dollars. Again, I'm going to need my math function because I'm just duplicating this. Whatever's already in dollars, except this is my child button, so I don't want to use the child price. I want to use the senior price. All right. And then inside the senior button, I'm going to need to do the same thing. So I'm going to, my two variables that I have to update, each one's going to get the plus in there. All right, so this is my tickets. So I'm doing tickets plus 1. This is dollars. So it's dollars. And this is my senior button, so I'm going to use the senior price. All right. So now when I run this, everything should work for me. Right. So there we go. That is level 8. Level 8A. So what you need to do is level 8B. This is a stats app for basketball. So it's the same idea. You're going to find the code that duplicates. You're going to move that into a function, and then you're going to make sure that some of these other on events have the correct code. All right, so I'm going to let you guys figure out that one. So if you have any questions, just come by room 624 or you can shoot me an email.